Whoops. Let's see. I can barely.
I can see you.
I'm here.
How are you?
I'm all right. It's Friday.
Yeah, for some. Let me ask you first and foremost. If there was entry music for you, what would it be? What song?
Oh. Well, being from the Middle East, it would have to be something like something a little. Do you know the singer? Okay, there's this legendary Egyptian singer named Kulthum. Do you know of her?
No.
Oh, well, that.
Can you sing some of her music?
I cannot. No, nobody. Many have tried. Very, very few.
What? Can you try?
Are you kidding? It's like beyond. I mean, she was a professional singer she has a fascinating biography. She was a professional singer from the age of 12, and she and her father was up from their tiny village, far from the world. And in order that she could appear and sing and then perform and then walk back home, and it was like hours of walking just to get to and from. And she died. I don't know. I think the peak of her career must have been in the 60s and 70s. So she was like the Egyptian Edith Piaf. But she is far and away the most, one of the most important vocalists ever.
So would she be up tempo or slow?
Very slow with a lot of orchestration, and very exact diction with a lot of pathos, more pathos than you could even imagine. And if you're familiar with classical Arabic music, it's built in, right? It's built into the
right.
culture. But she's a queen.
So that means you would come in with a strut.
I would come in more with a. Few people know this, but I did study classical belly dance for a long time. So
wow. Now
everybody knows.
Yeah. Well, hopefully we'll know more. That's the plan. How was your day?
Today was it was a little intense because we have heavy rain, right? And I meant to do this. I meant to go home first, but I am here because I couldn't go out in the rain. We had some kind of like flash hurricane situation here in Philadelphia. So I am speaking to you from my office, and when that happens, we're in an older building, so that we have to make sure that everything is okay in the collection area, which is so the collection is all on display at the center under the roof. So it's on the upper level. We have 2 levels here. I should probably say that I am the artistic director from the Center for Art and Wood, so that people know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I was going to get into an introduction, but go ahead. You go.
Oh, there we go. So we had very heavy rains, and when that happens, we have to make sure that the collection's okay. And it is.
All right. So give us your name and an introduction.
Sure. My name is Jennifer-Navva Milliken. I am the artistic director for the Center for Art and Wood. I have 2 first names, so you can choose which one you'd like to use. It seems that the West Coast has decided to go with Jennifer, and the East Coast has decided that Navva is the way to go. And as far as the choice of friends in the Middle East, it's a kind of a free-for-all.
Okay. All right, cool. So we're going to get into some questions to try and get to know you a little better. Then we'll get into your journey. And maybe we could take a tour?
I would love that. As long as you don't get vertigo, we could do that. Actually, I have some amazing things in my office that are about to be accessioned into the collection. So that's like a preview I can do.
Beautiful.
And then I can turn on the lights and take you into the exhibition too if you'd like.
Perfect. Absolutely. Yeah. We want to see it all. All right. So you ready?
Yes. Bring it on. Let's go. Yalla. Yalla, yalla.
If you had the opportunity to go to the moon, would you?
To the moon?
To the moon.
How long would it take? I mean, would it be like years?
No, it'd be currently. You get in, you fly to the moon.
Oh, okay. Yes, of course.
Okay. What word or phrase do you overuse?
What phrase do I overuse?
What word or phrase do you overuse?
It is what it is. Sorry.
It's all good.
In several languages, just so you know.
What is your least favorite thing to do?
File things, I think, clerical work. I probably could, I could think of some more things. That's a good start.
Okay. What is your most favorite thing to do?
Talk with artists.
Do you notice a difference in personalities between specific genres of art, or is it all just random?
No, that's such a good question. There are, especially when you're dealing with materials focused disciplines, right? So artists who are working with a specific material or process, there are psychologies that go with each of those materials.
That's why I was going with that.
Mm-hmm. It's so observable. Yes, absolutely true. It's a fact.
Right. What is the one thing your significant other would like to change about you?
So many things. So many things. We'll leave it at that.
All right.
But it makes it interesting, so that's okay.
What makes you tick?
Art and nature. Those are my two things. That's as religious as I get.
What irks you the most?
Jackhammers, mosquitoes, cruelty. I have a lot. I'm an irritable person, so I could keep going.
All right. So we're gonna go to the next. We're gonna go to the next question.
Okay.
What sound makes you happiest?
What sound? Water. Anything natural water sounds. I think that's what I. Well, even heavy rains as we experienced today. That must be why that's on my mind.
Okay. What sound bothers you the most?
Jackhammers, mosquitoes. Jackhammer.
What profession other than your own would you like to try?
I think I might at some point be a very good lawyer. As long as I could do something that affects some kind of change, I feel like the best way I have found to affect change in the world is through my advocacy of art and artists and living artists, people who are making artists in the here and now. But as long as I could do that in some way, then that's what it would be.
Okay. What would you like on your tombstone?
I'm not going to have a tombstone.
Popular answer.
Is it really?
Yes.
Do you have a pie chart? I'd like to see some charts and graphs here. I don't know. I mean, like when you're Jewish, you don't really get to choose like, it's pretty standard, it's a template, right? It's like, it's your name, your names, plural, if you have a vernacular name and a Jewish name, and then like your birth date in the Jewish calendar, and your birth date in the, how do you say, the sort of, what is it, the Julian calendar, and maybe if you pay extra, you get a little like fluff, like I don't know, beloved daughter, mother, blah blah blah. So you don't get to choose. It's already a boilerplate.
All right.
I don't care. Will I care? No, I won't care. I won't care.
Like, but how do you know?
I'm pretty sure.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure.
What is it about your personality that drives your business? Business. You're talking to someone who's like drunk the Kool-Aid of nonprofits and museums, but you're saying business in terms of like métier, right? Like, yeah, what it is that I do. I love to hear people's stories, and when they're making things, that's even better. So I think that, I mean, listening to people who are making things and translating their experiences of being in this world for the benefit of communicating with other people who are living in this world, I think that's what I bring to the work that I do. Okay. What is it about your personality that hinders your business?
Yeah, that's clear. I think I feel always that I need to get everything done all the time. So I am not one of these people that is able to say like, okay, 45 minutes today I'm doing this. Then I turn around and 45 minutes I'm devoting to this. I was reading, Zadie Smith wrote this response to the COVID, the period of time that we're in right now. It's called Illuminations. It's like, I recommend it. It's like an hour of reading. It's about, you know, a writer in this time. And what she's writing about, it really reflects, I think, the experience of all artists and people who are in creative fields. As they're trying to like put the pressure they put themselves under to be creative in this time, and how they find time, and how. So she writes that she's like 2 hours she does this, 2 hours she does this. If she has 2 extra minutes, she gets coffee. Like, I don't have that ability to be so disciplined with my time. I'm like, I gotta do this, I gotta do this, I gotta do this, and then like the day is over, and then I just get up the next day and do it again. So if anyone is interested in working with me to plan my time better, I would please direct me. That would be appreciated. I'll pay.
Who would you travel cross country with on a motorcycle?
Well, my partner, because he has done this before, and in India, he I think this is just so amazing what he did. He bought a motorcycle. He will tell me what I think it's like an old British make, and putt-putted himself around the entire subcontinent. Amazing. Wow. He's really mechanical, so he was able to, like, whenever there was a problem, he could stop at the side of the road and deal with the situation. That is something I am not able to do, so it would require that kind of thing. But I know everybody probably answers this, well, my partner, of course. But I mean, there are specific reasons in this case.
Yeah, people don't usually say their partner.
Oh, okay.
So they say a friend who would fit that.
Oh, okay. Well, maybe I won't unpack that here then.
What was your favorite concert?
Well, okay, so I don't know if you know this, but during the beginning of the 90s, I lived in Seattle. So this was a time when you couldn't turn around without going to some musical event that was going to be written about, like, and documented for all time. So, I mean, I saw Nirvana a number of times in a small venue, like in a, I don't know, I think one of these venues was like an all ages club in like some high school gym.
Wow.
And I
okay.
saw.
What was that like?
It was great, but it was like at the time I was like, nah, Nirvana, nah. Like, I was really bought into this whole Seattle attitude of like, anyone who achieves success in this field is selling out. It's quite embarrassing at the time, but I mean, at this time, it's really embarrassing for me to admit that, but that's how it was. That was the ever-present attitude there, and it continues. I think that kind of rejection of notoriety is a part of the Pacific Northwest culture overall, and I think it continues to be manifested in different ways there now.
How big were they when you saw them in the high school gym? Popular?
No, growing, but not like before Sliver, but after like their EP. I was also a radio. I had a spot on the college radio from 2 until 6 a.m. There were probably 1.5 listeners to this radio show, and so I used to get really tired, and so I would always find the longest Sisters of Mercy song, which was like 15 minutes, and play it, just so I didn't have to like switch the thing. But in addition to that, I did always play Nirvana's, what's it called? Mom and Dad went to a show. They dropped me off at Grandpa Joe's, kicked and screamed, and then anyway, Grandma take me home. I don't remember what the name of it is, but it was this really kooky song, and I thought it was hilarious. So I used to play it every time on my show to no one in the world. So.
Okay. Did you have any childhood nicknames?
I had all the nicknames. So I had people used to call me Millie because of my last name. I used to be called Niffer because I had a teacher in high school who decided that the obvious route would be to call me Jen or Jenny, so he was going to be unconventional and called me Niffer. And I think it pretty much stopped there. Yeah.
Okay. When was the last time you cried?
Probably within the last month.
Do you remember what it was about?
I don't think it was about anything. I think it was just being overwhelmed. How about you?
Today.
Do you remember what it was about?
Yeah.
Do you mind sharing?
No. It's about my current situation.
Mm-hmm.
Having to move, having to deal with it all, being unprepared, not being able to afford it, having to do it, it being necessary. Nowhere to turn to really deal with it. People around me not understanding the significance of the current situation. So it was probably due to feeling alone, more than about the task at hand. Because the task at hand is a challenge, but it still needs to be processed.
Yeah.
Sometimes I don't always do that or get to do that.
Of course not, because you have to go, right? You have to mechanically perform these things.
Yep.
So,
and I cry a lot. I have a lot going on. Some stuff I put myself in, some stuff happens. But yeah, shed a tear and get back to work.
Yeah, well, that's healthy. It sounds healthy to me.
Yeah. I mean, I spent a little time with a therapist, so being able to deal with what is in front of you is kind of important.
Yeah. It's an important skill, but it doesn't come naturally, right? You learn
or easily.
Yeah. No, absolutely.
Yeah. So.
Well, I wish you a lot of support in this.
Thank you. What impact do you want to leave on the industry?
This industry needs so much impact. So, I had a very long talk with a close friend of mine who basically was a part of like my earliest days in working in art museums, and we talk about all kinds of projects we want to do together, but museums are really problematic, but just simply because of the structure on which they're formed and they stand, and we need to change that. And in
so
some ways,
let's talk about that.
Sure.
What is that we need to change? I don't know, and I think part of you being here is you being on the inside, and there are artists who are on the outside that want to get in. So after the questions, we'll get further into that and what's required, how to do it. But to point to what you just mentioned about what you'd like to change, talk to us about that.
Well, first of all, it starts with leadership. There is not the kind of and I'm going to talk only about America right now, okay? Because like while the whole system of what it means to be a museum is a little bit more universal, this sort of 19th century post-Enlightenment concept of what a museum is meant to do has more or less become universal because of colonialism, right? So I'm going to talk only specifically about the United States.
Okay, now
too much to go into different societies.
So and they all change. They're all different.
Well, I mean, they respond to the society in which, what is the museum per definition, right? It's depending on its mission. It's a repository of idea and a caretaker of ideas. So it's going to reflect the mission of the society in which it represents. Okay. But I think societally, you have different countries and different cultures have different societies that form around it, even though it is very much a Western institution. But back to the U.S., we are having a lot of finally, we're having a lot of the institutionalized problems come to light. And just this week, there was a museum in our field that has experienced that sounds so passive. Been party to a lot of problems systemically in terms of internal treatment of staff, abuse of staff, lack of representation among staff, and board and leadership, and we keep seeing the effects of this issue, and no one is addressing this issue.
So my kind of agenda right now is about um, how smaller museums like the Center for Art and Wood, which functions absolutely as a museum, we collect, we exhibit, we document, we publish, we advocate, we program, we educate, and we step in and to help artists whenever we can. I think that's kind of the conventional definition, more or less, with museums, but we are small. We are a staff of 6 people plus a part-time employee. Every one of the staff here is essential and dynamic and creative and importantly dedicated to the center. We could not do what we're doing, especially in a time like this, without the exceptional commitment that we have from our staff. But when you're a small museum like that and you have a small staff that's so invested and committed, then you can do things, you can pivot, you can say, okay, identify this problem, we can solve this problem, while still not missing a beat in terms of representing the artists and advocating for them in the ways that we need to. So I feel very strongly that the future of public engagement in terms of art and consuming art and art in culture does rest on the shoulders of small museums. Unfortunately, we're doing more than larger museums because it's simply more difficult to turn the course of those ships. But we also receive less funding than those larger institutions because for all the reasons. Because our budgets are smaller, but also because we occupy less of the public space. But we offer more.
Okay. When was the most difficult time for your business and how did you overcome it?
Personally, I can answer that in 2 ways. I can answer that personally, which is just that, as a curator, I left a museum that I was working at and voluntarily, and I moved back to New York and was working as a freelance curator. And this was a really difficult 1.5 years because of a number of factors. I learned, if I didn't know this already, which I think I did, I learned that I am the kind of person who needs a team to motivate and have like a collegial dialogue with, and also keep me accountable. But also, even though I was doing this hustle, there was a reality that independent curators do not make a living wage. And I think people need to understand that if research is important in this society, and if the work that writers and researchers do in the arts is important, then we need to compensate their work. And that's a huge problem. So people talk about the hustle. Well, I think there was not a day during this period where I didn't, get out of bed go straight to the computer in my jammies by 7:30 in the morning, sit in the same place until like 9 at night, even later sometimes, without even like having basic grooming did not happen during this time. So it was like, and also, you're a New Yorker. You live in New York, and I think New Yorkers can uniquely understand how isolating it is to live in that city if you don't have that support network that, wherever you get it.
It's isolating to live here, period.
Yeah. And I imagine, Robert, that like right now, the last 6 months, it has been even more difficult and more challenging to live in New York because of everything that we love about living in New York it's absolutely removed from your lifestyle.
Yes. So you're left with the sacrifices that you would make to do XYZ. XYZ is gone.
Mm.
And now those sacrifices are now burdens.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So true.
Which is probably why whatever number of people who decided to bail did. But you know, that's what love and loyalty is.
Mm.
Is that when the sun isn't shining, you still get up, go out, and give the same amount of passion.
Yeah. Yeah. The passion pays off. I mean, if you didn't have that, it would be like, probably should be doing something else.
Yes. Do you have any Black friends?
I do. But very few. I'm gonna say that. Very, very few.
Okay. Who would you most like to have a conversation with?
Oh my God. The person standing out there on the street. Like, who wouldn't you want to have a conversation with? People are fascinating.
Everyone has a story.
That's so true. I inherited that from my grandfather. He used to know everyone. He knew everyone and their stories. And then he would repeat them. That might have been a problem.
Yes.
We didn't get into that. Discretion. I didn't learn discretion from that side.
Do you often see people of color in your industry?
I do now because I live in Philly. I so love that. I've been here for 2 years, and this is the first chance that I've had to interact with people in my field directly. I mean, that's not technically true, but it is generally true. Do you understand what I mean by the difference between those two things?
Explain it.
Well, like, so before I had that period that I just described about living in New York as an independent curator, I worked at a museum in Seattle, and like, so here and there, I mean, Seattle, you must know that Seattle is not the Pacific Northwest, not the most diverse place you could find ethnically or otherwise. So
I think most of America's like that.
That's probably true.
We have 52 states,
Yeah.
and maybe a quarter of those are urban.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe a quarter of those have urban cities. So when you go out to the woods, the mountains, the backwoods, most of that is not people of color.
Yeah. Yeah. The frontier, right? And I think that the Pacific Northwest is a relatively newer part of America in terms of when the European settlers arrived. On the other hand, there's this very developed material culture of the native peoples that lived there for thousands of years and developed because of the benign climate, because of the resources there, the natural resources there. They had a very really rich and continue to hold on to the rich culture, but also being a person whose job it is to look at objects, an exceptionally developed material and visual culture, which absolutely permeates the general culture of the region. I mean, I think anyone who lives there or has visited has seen form line paintings, which is the sort of white person name for the aesthetic approach of the black and the red, and these very stylized shapes. But there's such a rich history and a rich narrative that lie behind that simplified line and sense of, visual line is what I mean. And yeah, it continues to permeate the culture in a way that you don't see here, for example, where, William Penn and friends removed, that sounds a little benign for the word, I would say banished, the Lenni Lenape people from this region. So in the fact that they're not here now. How did I get onto that?
People of color in the industry. Right.
Okay. So thank you. So you see a lot more of it. I agree with what you said, that in urban areas you have, that's the fact of the demographics, right? But on the East Coast, you do have a lot more opportunity. And one of the many things that I love about being in Philadelphia as a newcomer is that it is much easier to be in contact with Black people, and that is something that I have benefited so much from. Artists and makers and woodworkers and creatives of all kinds, and museum professionals and advocates and people who work in aid organizations, providing assistance for people. It's so amazing to be here in the city and to have contact and discussion with people who are just making this, who are invested in the city and making it better.
Beautiful. Okay, so what I'd like to talk about now is, I don't know if we could do this while giving a tour, but how does someone get into a museum? How do you deal with the museum people? What do museums look for? How does it impact an artist's work, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera? For someone who knows nothing about that, how would you?
But as an artist?
Yes.
Okay. Well, if you're an emerging artist, the first thing that I would suggest is becoming familiar with venues and resources that publicize open call exhibitions. I think this is the very best way to get your work seen, because what it means is that if you submit your work for a juried exhibition, there is a group of people who will be looking at it. And whether or not you're actually your work is selected to be in this exhibition, there are people who are looking at it and they're getting to know your name. So when they see you again, they think, aha, I remember this person's entry from X exhibition, and we did or we didn't select that person's work to be in the exhibition, but they made this work that answers to this curatorial discussion that I want to have now. So I'm calling them and asking them to be a part of it. That's how it works. So it's really, I feel like it's much simpler than people think. It is not about like sending, it's usually, I think like 95%, not about sending your website or your work to the curator's email. Rather, which is an avalanche of, it's like a fire hose every day of emails. That emails is like the thing. Emails. Like 95% of my day. It is not glamorous. So getting your work seen in the right context by people who are active and thinking and working in the field, such as an open call exhibition, is the best opportunity I can think of. And people, curators, people in my field really, really, really want to know who is out there that no one has shown yet. We want to know that. We go to all the shows, well, up until mid-March, we go to the graduate shows, we go to the unconventional spaces, we go to the museum openings, we do it all because that's part of our job, right? And that's all part of research. And
How do you find out about open calls?
You have to, social media is amazing for this, and I think it's really expanded the field. So I guess you have to be, I would like follow an organization that you want to show in, because most museums and organizations do have some form of open call, whether it's like the Museum of Arts and Design does the Burke Prize annually. So, that's a chance to have your work seen. But almost every museum of some kind either does a biennial or some kind of thematic exhibition where they put the call out. So if you want to show somewhere, follow them, and then you'll get notice about it. So I think that's the best way. It's a lot of word of mouth. I don't put a lot of stock in these sort of like aggregators who are like, I don't know if that information is updated. Yeah, I would say the best thing is to do is just build, look to your networks and then follow organizations that you want to show at.
Okay. All right. Can we get a tour?
Sure. I hope I don't make you dizzy, and I apologize in advance. I'm going to have to, everyone else left, so I'm going to have to turn on the lights again.
So there were some things you wanted to show that were close to you, or no?
Oh. Okay. So okay. Stony Lamar. So this is what I get to look at every day. Do you see that? Is that framed appropriately? This is a work by Stony Lamar.
Beautiful.
Oh, it's amazing. It's called Torso Reclining, and it's he originally did it in 1987, and then I think revisited it in 2006, which is a really interesting kind of bracket of time. That's almost 20 years. I mean, it's just, if you're familiar with his work, he's an Asheville-based wood sculptor who's, his sensitivity and touch, even in the monumental sizes that most of his newer works occupy, is just stunning. And then right below that, this is a work by Jack Larimore, who's a Philly resident. Can you see that?
Yeah, very nice.
It's called Bird Ascending, and it has a trapped, turned object in, oops, there. Where is that? Okay, there it is. Can you see that?
Go down a little bit. Got it.
Wow, I am having to, good thing I do yoga. Okay, so here, can you see that? That's a work by Alphonse Mattia. It's a music stand from the late 70s.
Very nice.
Beautiful and very influential studio furniture artists. And then we come to, okay, I'm going to show you this one. This is kind of shelf here. But here you go. This is a spectacular work of carved burl by Michelle Holzapfel. Do you know her work? She's like one of the most amazing wood sculptors. She does it all. She just changes.
What's her name?
Michelle Holzapfel. She's based in Vermont, and very, very researched, figurative wood sculpture. She often uses burl, which you can see. Can you see that?
Yeah. That's
better. A piece of carved burl. Incredible work. And then over there, these things are, I can't remember what these are called, but it's a European tradition of spindle turning, and they're actually boxes. These are by an artist named Elia Vixera, he was based in Jerusalem, and then he moved north. A lovely, lovely person. So these were actually decorative objects that in the 19th century, they used to be, you would turn them and then you would encase them in a glass tube to protect them, because they're quite fragile. You can see they're very thinly turned. The bases are incredibly thin. So these are wonderful works, and then beyond, I have to point this out because I'm obsessed with. How can you see? That's Kim Winkle and Beth Ireland. This box right here. This one, which is really fantastic. And then these are saffron boxes. Where can I?
Point the camera down a little better.
I can't see what it. Can you see? There are 3.
Yeah, tilt the camera down a little more toward the ground.
How about that?
Yep, back up a little bit. Beautiful.
So these were meant to. This is an Amish tradition. They're meant to hold saffron. It's an incredible story. I could talk for hours about those. They're really, really amazing objects, and they're specific to the region. And Amish Mennonite culture.
Very
So,
nice.
okay. And then, before I go out, this is one of our newer works in the collection. This is a work by Damian Davis, whose exhibition. This was a work that was in the exhibition last spring, called Color Cargo, and it's from a series of Damian's works that layer his lexicon of forms. So I'll get closer, and you can see like this sort of Hank Willis Thomas Afro comb with a power button on it, a police barrier, masks, and images of or portrayals of women in Western culture versus like, you know, Nefertiti's bust, and then the upper. So there's a whole story panning out here, but he doesn't like to be too didactic in his work. He likes to leave space for personal entry points, so you can kind of build your own narrative through the work, but they're also incredibly autobiographical. So like, you know, being a tall Black kid, he was expected to excel in basketball when really he was a nerd, you know, a computer and an art nerd who didn't want to do anything else except draw and program things. So it's this whole story about what is the expectation for Black people in American society, and how do they get support for building their identities in this world, and the violence, of course, that underscores all of that, what it means to be a Black male. So this is he's amazing. He's just amazing. Amazing artist and amazing human being. I think you're gonna like that. This is the door of the office. This is a carving by Julia Harrison, but it is actually the entire door.
I like that.
Yeah, she's incredible.
Does anyone ever kiss the door?
Oh my God, that's forbidden. It's a you're not supposed to touch it. It's an object in our collection. I'm responsible for its care. So, so I don't know about that. I wouldn't know about that. I'll do everything that I can to make sure that it's in good shape. Let's see.
Chris, you're correct.
Sorry?
Chris made a comment about the wonderful wood selection.
Wood is wonderful, and everybody should be working in it.
I concur.
Thank you. I know you do what you do in order to make sure that happens.
I try.
So right now I'm standing in the exhibition, the entry to the exhibition.
You froze.
I was at Bellevue Arts Museum.
The signal doesn't appear to be that great.
It's a little tricky in the gallery, so maybe I'll make this quick. Humaira's work is incredible. It's a blend of her training as a wood carver and as a woman working in the miniature Mughal painting tradition. So she brings that level of detail to all of her work. So in this exhibition, she actually combines those two mediums improbably in a lot of the work. And she's continued to do that. She has a show opening next weekend at a gallery in Seattle. She's incredible. So this exhibition is about displacement and the worldwide refugee crisis, particularly women and girls that are in the more vulnerable victims of this situation, and their stories. And it's based on her work with and her conversations and documentation of women who were resettled in the Pacific Northwest area, as well as in Pakistan, which is where she's from, where she spends part of the year working. So the connection is bad, so I'm just going to show you one of the most remarkable pieces that the exhibition is built on, which is this. This work is called Borders and Boundaries, and it's 30 feet of barbed wire and fence posts. And the barbed wire, for all you woodworkers out there, that's carved mahogany. It's not wire.
Wow.
So, yeah, it is a wow. It's a wow thing.
Wow.
So we have 30 feet of that. I'll show you this how can we see? This is another installation in the show that's really shows her portraiture. I will get closer to this one, I think. Sorry, it's awkward. I'm trying to navigate this way. So this series is based on photojournalist images of girls that were refugees and then brought into refugee camps, and she drew from the images and the paintings of them. But what's different and what's notable here is that she's drawing on this courtly painter tradition, but in her work, all of the women are seen, or the girls are seen face on, and they're not avoiding your gaze. And that's a really, really important part of this, because if you look at traditional courtly painting, women are always looking away, or they're shown in profile, and you can look at them as decorative objects, but you don't really see their humanity. In these works, you're confronted with what these girls have suffered, and the fact that, and their resolve to continue on. And it's just, this was really hard. This is one of the hardest exhibitions that I've ever organized, just because it's not, it confronts you. It forces you to think about things that really aren't pleasant, but you have to, because this is something that is happening in the world. 65 million people are displaced in this world, or stateless.
Okay, Alan says, please show rear view mirror.
Yes, of course. So I'm backing up to it. So this is a series of 5 carved wood rear view mirrors that are a second in a series that Humerla did. The first was called Tempting Eyes. And I'm going to show you this one, this is about refugees. Again, the imagery was sourced from actual images that were shot by photojournalists.
So,
crossing the border.
Okay, the signal's a little tough. Can you move a little bit to the right or to the left?
I'll stay. Can you hear me now?
I can hear you.
It's the flight of the Rohingya from Myanmar or Burma to
Okay, so
I'm back.
All right, now that rearview mirror was very interesting.
Yeah.
And I was trying to get a cleaner view of that.
So here, I think, so first of all, I want to say, if you want a closer view of the exhibition, you can access through the center's microsite, programming site, thewoodshed.org. You can tour the exhibition actually with annotations and explanations of the work. So first of all, I recommend doing that if you want to more closely reflect on the works in the show. So hopefully you got a sense though of the general gallery situation here at the center. But this is the preceding, we made this amazing book, which is available at the center through its website, or if you want to come here and buy one, you can. So I'm very proud of this book, I have to say. But this is the series that led up to the rear view mirror that you see here in this show. And this is a series called Tempting Eyes. Now, in Saudi Arabia, there's a law that, or there was a law. I'm not sure what the status is right now, but there was a law because women who were having to wear khado and have only their eyes exposed, they would do this very elaborate eye makeup. And so it turned out to be very alluring because this is what happens when you do this to women's bodies. You erase them from the public view, and then the part that you see becomes fetishized. So they had to pass a law to outlaw this kind of elaboration in eye makeup, and
wow.
in order to protect the men, shall we say. And
of course.
It was called the Tempting Eyes Law. So, she Humaira went to Saudi Arabia when they lifted the law against women drivers. She went to Riyadh, rented a car, and had her husband film her driving around Riyadh. And then, she released the film, which is an amazing video to see. And the last thing that you see is Humaira. This is Humaira herself. These are her eyes. And that's what you see when the video closes. So she created a number of different women's eyes to reflect different forms of women in Islam. And I mean, there are details and details and details upon details, and that you can read into and understand more deeply her use of irony, but through this meticulous craft that she's kind of beholden herself to, she's committed to. So she's an astounding person and a courageous person, and probably one of the bravest artists I've ever worked with, an incredible human being. And that's why I do what I do.
And we thank you for that.
Thank you. Thank you all the artists out there for doing what you do. It's amazing.
We appreciate it. Where do you think we go next with what you do and artists getting in galleries and museums and showings?
That's a really complicated question for right now, because that model is changing.
Exactly.
I mean, it used to be that galleries would be the entity that would represent you and take care of you and protect you from, the rest of the world, so you could do what you want to do, and they would take care of all the business stuff. And I think in the good thing about that model is that galleries also took care of the field, right? So you have a primary market where you buy something that is just made and no one else has owned it. And then you have a secondary market where somebody is selling it, putting it back on the market, and somebody else is buying it. So galleries do what they do in part to build this market. So it's not like we have now with art and wood, where there just isn't that kind of value for work that is deaccessioned from personal collections and back on the market. There just isn't. And there's nothing in America, there's nothing to protect artists in this system, which is, that's another issue. In France, every resale of every work grants the artist a certain percentage of the sale. That doesn't exist here. I mean, once you're an artist, maybe you needed to pay rent and somebody came and visited you in your studio and you sold something for $50, or, that doesn't help with anyone's rent. Who am I kidding? But it's kind of an abstract. So that person could turn around in 10 years when you've developed your career and sell it for $1 million, and you see none of that. Zero. Whereas in other countries, you would see some of that. And that could happen.
Yeah, so you always, in some way, still own it, or own a right to it, a part of it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a way of looking at it, for sure. But I think galleries, I don't think galleries are villains at all. I think they have done an important service to these fields. Like I said, they cultivate it, and they cultivate an artist's work. Now, it's not black and white. There are certainly bad experiences and bad galleries out there, and there's a lot to complain about systemically as well. It's not a clean concept at all. But anyway, in any case, whether or not you're pro or con, it's changing because social media is providing ways for artists to make connections with collectors that are direct, and the opportunities for galleries to do what they do is dwindling. It used to, just post 9/11, galleries depended on their ability to go to events, like spectacle-driven events, like Art Basel, for example. Well, now there's no Art Basel. Sorry, I mean, there's no going to Miami Beach this winter. There's no going to Basel 2 months ago. And the internet platforms that exist that kind of substitute for that do not come close to the experience of being there in those spaces and having the opportunity to talk to artists directly or to their gallerists and then participate in that energy that was really all spectacle. So there are positives and negatives associated with that as well. So I'm super excited to see what the next step is. Maybe finally artists will have a little bit more control over their futures and the courses of their careers.
Very nice. I like that. I agree with that.
Yeah. I should mention also that you have a different kinds of models emerging, and I saw that my friends from Brooklyn Metalworks, I think they might be on, and they're presenting something that's really interesting, which is a membership-driven organization that provides learning opportunities with a process or a material, and also they publish scholarly and curatorial work. They hold exhibitions. There they are.
Hello.
They're based in a neighborhood, but they also have an international reach. I mean, this is an interesting model going forward that can help facilitate not only the development of an artist's career in a field, but also a support group around an artist's work in a field. So I'd like to see those. I'd like to see the success of those kinds of organizations in the forefront, because I think that there might be a strong future with that.
Okay, I follow them, so I'll check them out.
Brian and Aaron.
Hello, Brian and Aaron. So, have we covered it all? Is there anything else? You also do interviews as well.
Yes. Yes.
Tell us about that.
Sure. Thank you for asking. I think I'll just give a little bit of background and context to this, because, I began my art museum career in 2000, in New York at a museum, and that was really on the cusp of something paradigmatically changing in museums. And post 9/11, it became museum programming sort of pushed education and content aside in order to get the bodies into the spaces. So it became these very kind of event and experience driven things, like just do something, anything with a DJ and a bar, and people will come, and those are going to be our new members. Well, you know, that really, for whatever numbers museums were able to bring into their spaces, it really impoverished and removed any kind of responsibility for mission-driven content to be a part of those experiences. So I think it should have been expected that there would be a very short timeline for that kind of strategy. So now here we are in a situation where people can't leave their houses, or couldn't leave their houses for a long time, or shouldn't leave their houses. What are we going to do for them? And so shifting from being a site-based educational institution to something that can reach people where they are is something that we had to very quickly pivot and do. And this goes back to what I was saying about being a small and nimble organization. And I think this is the future in small museums for this reason, is that we quickly, Sarah Kaiser, who's an amazing designer, communication strategist, she's on our staff. She quickly responded and set up this microsite that we were able to program and keep lively and add to and make generative. And so we have everything. It just becomes this discussion about what the center is and how it wants to communicate with people in our field. So everything from like exhibition tours to talks from artists from around the world to panel discussions about that kind of draw from our exhibition programming, but bring it into kind of personalize it through the voices of people who are involved, to meditations and yoga exercises that are specifically designed for makers by my sister, who is a trained yoga teacher and instructor, and craft demonstrations. And Katie Thorenson, who's our community engagement manager, is a big part of this content and like exploring what we can do. But we feel like we don't have many limits as long as the conversation circulate around what the center is about. And we can also draw from 40 years since the founding of the center of material and archives and stories, and bring them out into the woodshed, which sounds scary, but it's actually reclaiming that negative, punitive association of woodsheds and making it a fun space.
All right. So Alan asked, were you ever a maker? And what is the psychological makeup of wood people, as you previously mentioned?
I don't think I deserve to call myself a maker. No, I've never been a maker. I did, when I was studying for my first degree in college, I was a studio major, but it was image making processes like drawing, painting, and printmaking. But I became very drawn during that time to process-based forms of making images, such as photography and printmaking. And then post-graduation, I actually graduated with a degree in art history. That's another story. But I survived for about 3 years post-degree by working in dark rooms. So I did use those skills. I survived, yay! With a degree in art history. Even Obama said that I couldn't do that, and here I am. So, psychology of woodworkers. I'm not sure that this is a safe space to talk about that. I think I have too much at stake. So anyone who wants to talk about that, that's a conversation that it needs to involve a drink of some kind.
I'm with you. I'm with you.
Thank you.
Jeff, what about developing a museum in cyberspace where you're using the avatar to go and view?
To use
Wait, what was the second part of that?
An avatar. An avatar, the little people that you make. He's talking about cyberspace, museums in cyberspace.
Oh, you mean like a oh, yay, Alan, drinks, yes. An avatar, like, you mean like a bot docent kind of thing?
Exactly.
Amazing. That if you can program that for us, please direct message me.
Get on that, Jeff.
Yeah, please do. I have a project coming up that if it gets the kind of funding that I'm looking for, that will involve joining woodturners from Egypt, from Cairo, to Philadelphia, and joining these traditions together, partially through the help of augmented reality, which I think, I've engaged an actual firm to design this for us, but I see, the minute I did that and submitted the grant, I saw that you actually have tools now where you can just do it yourself. So I think probably in 2 years, when this project is supposed to take place, we'll just be able to do it ourselves. But don't tell that to the people in Belgium, because they're pretty great. And I want to work with them.
Yes, very important. Violet Rose, this could be Cocktails Blacklumberjack. Possibly. Someone as a joke connected my address and said Blacklumberjack's bar. So if I'm here and I look up my address, it says that I'm Blacklumberjack's bar. I thought that was crazy.
But you don't drink.
No. And I didn't do that. That's the funny part. They turned it into a bar.
Well, what's a bar? I mean, you don't have to drink to enjoy like the principle of a bar, right?
I worked in a bar for 20 years and never drink.
Yeah. Wow, you saw some stuff, I bet.
It's Four Seasons Hotel bar.
Even more. So you know how to make the classics.
Yeah.
I love the classics.
What's your favorite?
Aviation. I know.
Never heard of that.
Oh, really? That's a Savoy hotel. That's a pre-prohibition British classic. That's gin, maraschino liqueur, lemon juice, and creme de violette. The purple stuff, the violet liqueur. It's my favorite. It's my go-to thing.
All right. Cool. Violet said that just so you can start talking.
That I should sorry?
She goes, I just meant that so she could spill her guts, meaning the drink thing so you can start talking.
Oh. Well, I do, so we've started, when we do artist lectures in the woodshed, I've started designing cocktails. So I do a lot of mixology at home. I used to work in a bar in the 90s, and then continued in Israel. I was also a bartender for events, and that's a very different context to work in as a bartender, because it's really food culture. It's not a drinking culture. So like when you get a gin and tonic, it's in components. Like you have to do it yourself. You get a glass of gin, you get a glass of ice cubes, and you get a plate with a lemon on it, and then you get a bottle of tonic, and it's like, go for it. Well, never mind. I kind of feel like if I go to a bar, I want people to do that for me, but maybe in some situations, it's better that you do it yourself. But anyway, so I've started doing bespoke cocktail recipes for each of our programs. So for example, we had Roy Underhill, which was really, really fun. Roy Underhill is the Woodwright's shop show on PBS for like 4 decades, where he wore the same outfit, including suspenders, for 40 years. An amazing guy, amazing, wonderful person. And he had a sign in his shop that said, "Absent makes the heart." And so I made a cocktail in his honor that's mostly absinthe.
Now, Violet has a question. Never tried that. Is that where Ryan Reynolds got his gin company name from?
Who is Ryan Reynolds and what is his company?
There's Ryan Reynolds. There's a couple of Reynolds guys. Both are very good looking. They're actors.
Okay.
One has a gin company.
Okay.
All right, so we'll pass on that.
Okay. I'll do some research. I'll get back to you.
So, have we covered it all?
You tell me.
I think so.
I could go all. Yeah. No. I mean, it's up to you. You're the host.
Oh, Aviator Gin.
No. It's the aviation cocktail. It's a different thing. There is an Aviator Gin, but it's not that.
Are you sure they're not connected?
Yeah.
Okay.
I am.
I'm not doubting you. I'm just.
No. I know my gin.
And the history of.
I would like to know more. Retirement project. Well, Robert, I don't know if anybody else knows this, but we're going to reverse the roles in a few weeks, and you're going to be talking with me in the woodshed, and I'm going to be asking you the questions.
Yes, right. We're gonna do a role reversal.
Yes, we are.
Thank you for coming on here, and I'm going to visit you as well.
I can't wait. Thank you so much.
Did we choose a date for that?
No, but it'll be, I mean, as far as I'm concerned, it could be like the third week in September, if that'll work with you.
Yeah. Just let me know. I'm there.
All right. That sounds good. And it's safe to come down if you feel confident about doing that. I can definitely understand if you don't. But the center is open Thursday, Friday, and Saturday now. And I think, you saw, out of all the public spaces that you could spend time in, I think that galleries and museums are probably the safest among them.
Let me think about that. That's a possibility.
That would be fun.
Yeah. I could ease on down the road.
With a soundtrack, I'm sure.
Absolutely. Well, thank you. I'm going to let you have your Friday evening.
Thank you. Shabbat shalom. Thank you so much.
It's an absolute pleasure.
Likewise. Thank you. Anytime. Thank you so much.
I'll see you in a few weeks.
Inshallah. Thank you.
Thank you all for tuning in.
Bye-bye.
Good night.